years of transportation history, few inventions have captured the spirit of freedom and adventure quite like the motorcycle. From its humble beginnings to the cultural icon it's become today, the motorcycle has left an undeniable mark on society. The motorcycle began in the second half of the 19th century, descending from safety bicycles, which are very similar to pedal bikes we know today.
The bikes we're familiar with today, they call them the safety bicycle.
To differentiate from the high wheel or the ordinary, which was the large wheel, the big wheel, the safety bicycle was smaller wheeled. It started out as a 30-inch wheel.
Despite early milestones in the development of the motorcycle, there is no clear line of descent that can be traced back to one single idea. Instead, the concept seems to have arrived to numerous engineers and inventors around Europe at around the same exact time. With a history shrouded in controversy and misinformation, the first bicycle or man-powered vehicle is credited to Italian engineer Giovanni Fontana. While only one image exists, it is described as having 4 wheels and using a continuous rope, connected via gears to the wheels. 400 years after Fontana built his 4-wheeled contraption, a German inventor named Carl von Drais began work on his own version. 4 years later, in 1817, Drais debuted a 2-wheeled concept to which all bicycles to this day are based on. The vehicle was known by many names throughout Europe, including dandy horse and hobby horse. Weighing 50 pounds or 23 kilograms, this bicycle ancestor had 2 wooden wheels attached to a wooden frame. Riders sat on a leather saddle nailed to the frame and steered the vehicle with a primitive set of wooden handlebars. There were no gears and pedals, as riders simply pushed the vehicle with their feet. Drais built his machine in response to a very serious problem. According to the Smithsonian magazine, Indonesia's Mount Tambora erupted, and the ash cloud that scattered around the world lowered global temperatures. Crops failed, and many animals, including horses, died of starvation.
That's exactly what happened in the early 1800s after a series of volcanic explosions, leading to 1816 being dubbed the year without a summer. The largest eruption took place in April of 1815 when Mount Tambora in Indonesia spewed immense amounts of volcanic dust and sulfur dioxide into the upper atmosphere. These tiny particles reflected sunlight, resulting in a volcanic winter, with effects lasting over years rather than weeks. Severe climate anomalies, such as snow and frost in the summer and in the tropics, led to crop failures, flooding, drought, starvation, and disease. It's estimated that over 100,000 people in Europe alone lost their lives to the consequences of this volcanic winter. With the lack of oats to feed horses, people began looking for alternative methods of transportation, leading to, you guessed it, the invention of the bicycle.
Drais brought his hobby horse to France and England, where it had a few years of success before they were banned from sidewalks as a danger to pedestrians. The fad soon passed, and by the 1820s, the hobby horse was rarely seen. Bicycles would make a comeback in the early 1860s with the introduction of a wooden design that had 2 steel wheels, pedals, and a fixed gear system, called a velocipede, or a bone shaker, due to the bumpy trip the brave rider would experience. Now, the question of who invented the velocipede, with its revolutionary pedals and gear system, is a bit obscure. At least 3 people claim to have invented the bicycle, but the first patent for such a device was granted to Pierre Lelmont, a French carriage maker who obtained a US patent for a two-wheeled vehicle with crank pedals in 1866, according to the National Museum of American History. Here is when the story becomes even more unclear as to who laid claims on the velocipede, because before Lehlmann secured a patent, he showed his design publicly in 1864. Lehlmann allegedly sold the Olivier brothers the patent and design, who in turn formed a partnership with a blacksmith, Pierre Michaud. They would form the business Michaud and Company and mass-produce the first velocipede. Therefore, it was under Michaud's name that Lehlmann's bike became famous, helping bring about what would set in motion the first motorized bicycle. Credit for the first motorized bicycle is based on two factors: opinion on what is considered a motorized bike, and proof of such a vehicle existing. On one side of the argument are people who believe that the first motorcycle or motorized bicycle was a steam-powered velocipede, invented by Pierre Michaud's son Ernest and French engineer Louis-Guillaume Perrault by attaching a small commercial steam engine to an iron-framed pedal bicycle.
The exhibition starts with the Perrault of 1871, the very first motorcycle ever designed. At that time, at the end of the steam era, engines had finally been made small enough to fit into frames modeled after the Michaud bicycle. Perrault's earlier patents of 1868, 1869, and 1870 show other versions similar to this final machine, including one with an electric motor.
Others, such as Cycle World's technical editor Kevin Cameron, argue that a true motorcycle must use a gasoline internal combustion engine or use the same technology as successful motorcycles that went into mass production, and not a dead end. Instead, giving credit to Wilhelm Maybach and Gottlieb Daimler's 1885 Daimler Reitwagen, or riding wagon, Gottlieb Daimler assisted Nikolaus Otto in becoming the world's largest engine manufacturer of the time, helping create a compressed-charge gaseous petroleum engine. Daimler and Maybach would leave Otto's company and begin working on an engine of their own.
The first road vehicle with a gasoline engine, the riding car. On the 29th of August 1885, the engineer Gottlieb Daimler applied for a patent for the world's first motorcycle. Equipped with a complex heat pipe ignition system, the riding car was powered by a compact, fast-running four-stroke single-cylinder engine. With a capacity of 264 cubic centimeters, this engine produced 0.5 horsepower. The first fire chair in history possessed two drive positions, achieving a maximum speed of 12 kilometers per hour, and was the predecessor of the world's first automobile.
This device is widely regarded as the first motorcycle. It rejuvenated a huge wave of innovation and was the forerunner to all other forms of transportation vehicles that used gasoline internal combustion engines. Ironically, called the father of motorcycles, it was automobiles Daimler truly desired to make. By the late 1880s, dozens of companies began to produce self-propelled bicycles, first in Germany, then England, and finally the United States. In 1894, the German company Hildebrand and Wolfmuller became the first to establish a production line to manufacture the vehicles, which now for the first time were coined motorcycles. In 1901, Royal Enfield produced its first motorcycle along with Indian Motorcycle Company in America. In 1902, Triumph, a popular English bicycle company, manufactured its first motorcycle fitted with a Belgian-built engine. By 1903, the American motorcycle icon Harley-Davidson produced its first motorcycle. Over the next decade, creativity and design were driven by the popular new sport of motorcycle racing. And by 1911, Chief August Vollmer of the Berkeley, California Police Department organized the first official motorcycle patrol in the United States. Motorbike production was ramped up during the First World War to supply better communications to the front lines. Messages on horseback were replaced with dispatch riders on motorcycles, also performing reconnaissance missions and acting as military police. The American motor company Harley-Davidson devoted over 50% of its factory output towards the war effort, and by 1920, Harley-Davidson became the largest manufacturer, with their motorcycles being sold in 67 countries.
We have identified over 446 of these people with criminal records. They seem to have a pattern of feeling that in numbers they have strength.
By the end of World War II, the rise of motorcycle clubs and racing teams emerged in America. A lot of the credit is given to returning veterans from the war looking for the same camaraderie and danger they experienced in duty. Motorcycle clubs like the Hells Angels would capture the public's imagination with their rebellious image. At the same time, motorcycles gained widespread popularity, becoming a symbol of counterculture across the world. Harley-Davidson and British manufacturers Triumph, BSA, and Norton retained a dominant position in most markets until the rise of the Japanese manufacturers led by Honda in the late 1960s. The Japanese manufacturers were able to produce modern designs more quickly, cheaply, and of the same or better quality than their competitors. The 1950s and 60s saw the appearance of not only Honda, but also Suzuki, Kawasaki, and Yamaha. The Japanese motor companies would hold a significant stronghold on the market until around the 1990s, when American and European companies once again expanded to new markets. In the developing world, small and inexpensive maintenance motorcycles are a great way of transportation. For people living in highly populated cities, motorcycles, scooters and mopeds are used as taxis to maneuver through bumper-to-bumper traffic. The motorcycle continues to evolve, with advances in technology and design pushing the boundaries of performance and innovation. From sleek sport bikes to rugged adventure motorcycles, there's a ride for every enthusiast. As we reflected on the history of the motorcycle, one thing remains clear. Whether cruising down a country road or tearing up a racetrack, the motorcycle will always embody the spirit of freedom, adventure, and the open road.